Welcome to the course on AI data center networking using white box infrastructure. Before we jump into technologies like Sonic, EVPN, or RoCE, I want to start with something more fundamental, a question that actually matters before anything else. What exactly is AI networking? AI networking refers to designing and operating networks that are specifically optimized for artificial intelligence workloads. And when I say AI workloads, I'm mostly talking about large scale model training. That is the heavy, demanding side of AI that puts enormous pressure on your infrastructure. Now, AI workloads are very different from traditional applications. There are two main types: training workloads and inference workloads. Inference is what happens after training when the model is already built and you're using it to make predictions. But training is the heavy part. This is where massive data sets are processed across hundreds, sometimes thousands of GPUs working in parallel. Here is the thing though, each GPU does a portion of the computation, and then, and this is the critical part, they must constantly exchange data with each other. This communication is called gradient synchronization. Every GPU needs to share what it learned with every other GPU. And this happens repeatedly, over and over throughout the training process. And here is the key insight that changes how you think about this. AI training performance is not just limited by GPU power, it is heavily limited by network performance. Your network becomes a first class constraint, not an afterthought. If your network is slow, congested, or drops packets, GPUs sit idle. Training takes longer and costs increase dramatically. We are talking about clusters that cost millions of dollars per day to run. Even a few percent of inefficiency translates into serious money. So, when we say AI networking, we are talking about building a network that minimizes latency, avoids packet loss, and provides extremely high bandwidth consistently. That is the standard we are building toward in this course. Now, let me show you how different this is from what most of us are used to. Let's compare AI networking directly with traditional data center networking. In a traditional data center, traffic is mostly north south. That means users connect to applications, a web server, a database, an API. The traffic flow is predictable. Client sends a request, server processes it, server sends a response. Clean, directional, straightforward. Now contrast this with an AI data center. Here, the majority of traffic is east-west, server to server communication, specifically GPU to GPU communication. Instead of serving users, the system is constantly synchronizing data internally between thousands of processors. Let me give you an analogy that makes this click. Traditional networking is like people ordering food from a restaurant. There is a customer, there is a server, the food goes one direction. AI networking is like chefs constantly passing ingredients between each other while cooking a massive meal together in real time. Every chef needs what every other chef has, and they need it immediately. Now, here is the challenge: AI traffic is extremely sensitive to imperfections. If even a small percentage of packets are dropped, retransmissions happen, latency increases, synchronization slows down, and because training is iterative, you repeat this process thousands or millions of times. Even small delays multiply over time and compound into major performance losses. That is why AI networks must behave almost like lossless fabrics, not just fast, nearly perfect. Let's now talk about GPU clusters because understanding the infrastructure helps you understand why the network requirements are so demanding. A GPU cluster is a collection of servers, each equipped with GPUs, working together as a single unified system. Each server is called a node. These nodes are grouped into racks. Multiple racks form a cluster, and at the largest scale, multiple clusters form a fabric. Now, here is the interesting part. These GPUs are not working independently. They are constantly exchanging data during training, and there are different communication patterns that happen. All reduce is the most common in training. Broadcast, point to point, each has different traffic characteristics. All reduce is especially important to understand. It means every GPU shares its results with every other GPU in the cluster, not just some of them, all of them. This creates an enormous amount of network traffic simultaneously. Every GPU talking to every other GPU at the same time. Now imagine scaling this. 100 GPUs, manageable. 1000 GPUs, very demanding. 10,000 GPUs, extremely challenging. At that scale, even microseconds of delay matter. A microsecond here, a microsecond there, multiplied across billions of synchronization events, and you have a serious performance problem. This is why AI networking requires careful design, not just high speed, but predictable, consistent, reliable performance at scale. Now, let me address a question that comes up a lot. Why can't we just use traditional networking for AI workloads? We already have high speed networks. Why do we need something different? The answer lies in how traditional networks handle congestion and packet loss. Traditional networks are built around TCP. TCP is reliable, it guarantees delivery, but it is not efficient for AI workloads. Here is what happens when packet loss occurs in a TCP environment. TCP retransmits the lost packet. The congestion window reduces, meaning TCP intentionally slows down to avoid making things worse. Throughput drops. For normal applications, this is completely acceptable. You barely notice it. But for AI workloads, this is disastrous. Why? Because AI training requires synchronized communication across all GPUs simultaneously. If one GPU is delayed due to a TCP retransmission, all the other GPUs must wait for it. They cannot proceed until that one GPU catches up. This problem has a name. It is called the Straggler Effect. Even one slow node can slow down the entire cluster. One GPU stuck in a retransmission cycle brings hundreds or thousands of others to a halt. And while they are waiting, you are paying for all that idle compute. On top of that, buffers overflow, congestion builds up, and latency spikes in unpredictable ways. The whole fabric starts to degrade under load. So instead of TCP, AI networks use RDMA-based protocols, specifically RoCE, which stands for RDMA over Converged Ethernet. RDMA allows memory on one server to be accessed directly by another server without involving the CPU on either side. It is extremely fast, but it requires a near lossless network to function properly. Any significant packet loss breaks RDMA performance badly. And that is exactly why we need specialized designs, which we will cover in detail in the upcoming modules. Let me close this session by summarizing the key requirements of AI networking. These requirements will guide everything we do in this course, from hardware selection to protocol design to operational strategy. First, ultra-low latency. Even microseconds matter when GPUs are synchronizing data constantly. Latency is not just a performance metric, it is a training cost. Second, high throughput. We are talking about 100 gigabit, 400 gigabit, even 800 gigabit links. The bandwidth requirements of modern AI clusters are staggering. Third, lossless or near lossless behavior. Packet loss must be minimized because retransmissions destroy AI workload performance. The network must be engineered to avoid drops under load. Fourth, scalability. Your design should support thousands of GPUs without performance degradation. What works at 100 GPUs must still work at 10,000. And finally, predictability. This is the one people often underestimate. It is not enough for the network to be fast on average. It must be consistently fast. Unpredictable latency, sometimes called jitter, can break AI workloads just as badly as slow average latency. These 5 requirements, low latency, high throughput, lossless behavior, scalability, and predictability, are the lens through which we will evaluate every design decision in this course. I will see you in the next module where we start getting into the actual technologies that make this possible.